Mangalica pig, a comprehensive overview. History and origin. The Mangalica, also known as Mangalica or Mangalica, is a heritage breed of domestic pig that originated in the 19th century Austro-Hungarian Empire. en.wikipedia.org. In 1833, Serbian Prince Miloš Obrenović gifted 10 sows and 2 boars of the hardy Serbian Sumedinka breed to the Habsburg Archduke Joseph of Hungary, who crossbred them with robust Hungarian hogs, Baconii and Salantai, and European wild boar stock. en.wikipedia.org. This breeding created a new lard-type pig that grew quickly on simple foraging and required little special care. en.wikipedia.org. The resulting breed, later named Mangalica, meaning hog with a lot of lard in Serbian, became extremely popular for its fat and hardiness. By the late 1800s, it was the predominant pig in the Austro-Hungarian region, prized for its exceptional lard yield. mbor.com. Historical records indicate it was even reserved for Habsburg royalty at first, and millions of Mangalica pigs were kept to supply lard and meat across Europe. mbor.com. Throughout the early 20th century, Mangalica hogs remained important in Hungary and neighboring areas. A breeders' society was founded in 1927 to refine the breed. en.wikipedia.org. However, after World War II, the breed's fortunes declined sharply. The global shift toward leaner pork and the advent of cheap vegetable oils, replacing lard for cooking, reduced demand for fatty pigs. D'Artagnan.com. mbor.com. By the 1950s, modern lean breeds had largely replaced the Mangalica in industrial farming, and the Mangalica population collapsed. In Hungary, registered Mangalica sows plummeted from thousands to only a few dozen within a decade. mbor.com. The breed neared extinction. By 1991, fewer than 200 Mangalica pigs remained in Hungary. en.wikipedia.org. Fortunately, dedicated efforts in the 1990s rescued the breed. A Spanish ham producer, Monte Nevado, partnered with Hungarian breeders to revive Mangalicas, recognizing the value of their meat. en.wikipedia.org. mbor.com. Breeding programs and a renewed breeders' association, re-established in 1994, slowly built up numbers. The recovery was successful. Today Hungary has over 7,000 Mangalica sows producing around 60,000 piglets annually, and the breed has spread to niche farms in numerous countries, including the United States. en.wikipedia.org. Once a nearly lost heirloom, the Mangalica is now celebrated as a living link to Old World livestock traditions. Breed characteristics. Physical traits. The Mangalica is immediately recognizable by its thick, curly coat of hair, which earns it the nickname woolly pig. This coarse, fleece-like coat, often blonde, but also seen in red or black swallowbelly colorations, gives it a sheep-like appearance. D'Artagnan.com. In fact, the Mangalica is the last pig breed in existence with such a long, curly coat. The only other comparable breed, the UK's Lincolnshire curly coat, went extinct decades ago. en.wikipedia.org. Mangalica pigs are medium-sized, with a stout build. They have a relatively round body, deep chest, and short legs, carrying a lot of fat and a modest amount of lean meat. A mature Mangalica typically has drooping ears and a sway-backed, robust frame. Pig333.com. Pig333.com. The breed comes in 3 primary varieties distinguished by color: blonde, most common, a yellowish-white coat, red, reddish coat, from a historical cross with Salanta pigs, and swallow-bellied, black body with a lighter belly. en.wikipedia.org. Other variants like solid black or wolf, gray-brown, existed historically but became extinct or were absorbed into the 3 main lines. en.wikipedia.org. Despite the different coat colors, all Mangalicas share the same fundamental traits: hardiness and adaptability. One of the Mangalica's most notable characteristics is its extreme hardiness. These pigs were developed as an outdoor breed and easily tolerate harsh climates. Their dense curly hair grows thicker in winter, insulating them against freezing temperatures. Hobbyfarms.com. Farmers in cold regions report that Mangalicas often prefer to sleep outside, burrowed into straw, and can even handle snowfall on their backs without discomfort. Hobbyfarms.com. Nonetheless, they should have access to shelter. See farming practices below. The breed is equally adept at foraging. Mangalicas have strong rooting instincts and can graze on pasture, consuming grasses, roots, nuts, and field crops with minimal supplemental feed. en.wikipedia.org. Historically, they were allowed to roam oak forests and farm fields after harvest to fatten on acorns and leftovers. This thrifty, self-sufficient foraging ability made them ideal for small-scale farmers in the 1800s and remains an advantage today. They are also known to be fairly disease-resistant and can handle both cold winters and hot summers. In hot climates, they grow a lighter coat and appreciate shade/mud wallows. Hobbyfarms.com. Pig333.com. Overall, the Mangalica is a robust, unimproved breed that thrives in extensive, outdoor, husbandry conditions, unlike modern commercial pigs that require controlled environments. Pig333.com. Production characteristics: as a classic lard-type pig, the Mangalica yields a very high percentage of body fat. An adult hog may consist of only about 30 to 35% lean meat and 65 to 70% fat by weight. Cielo.org.za. The fat is distributed both as back fat and heavily marbled intermuscular fat. This gives the carcass a plump, rounded appearance. The meat itself is a deep red color, darker than typical pork, and finely marbled. Mangalicas grow slower than modern breeds and also have smaller litter sizes. Sows often birth 5 to 8 piglets per litter, versus 10 plus in commercial breeds, and the piglets grow at a moderate rate. Embor.com. It can take 12 months or more for Mangalica pigs to reach slaughter weight, whereas industrial hogs reach market size in 5 to 6 months. Hobbyfarms.com. This slow growth and high fat yield were viewed as inefficiencies during the 20th century shift to lean pork. Embor.com. Indeed, the Mangalica produces too little lean meat, which is why it was largely replaced by lean breeds in commercial production. en.wikipedia.org. However, the same traits that hurt its commercial viability, the abundant fat and slow maturity, are exactly what make Mangalica pork so exceptional in quality, as discussed in the next section. In summary, the Mangalica pig is a thick-fleeced, hardy hog built for outdoor living in fat production, with unique characteristics that set it apart from any modern pig breeding and genetics. After its near extinction, the genetic base of the Mangalica is relatively narrow, so careful breeding management is essential. Historically, there were many distinct bloodlines. For example, Hungary once catalogued 53 different Mangalica boar lines, family strains, in the breed's heyday. Embor.com. Today only about 27 boar lines remain in the Hungarian herd book, meaning roughly half of the original genetic lines were lost over time. Embor.com. This illustrates why maintaining genetic diversity is a priority for breeders. Best practices for Mangalica breeding include avoiding close inbreeding, do not mate siblings or parents with offspring, and using breeding pairs that come from different lineage lines whenever possible. Many breeders will exchange breeding stock or semen with others to introduce new blood and prevent a single bloodline from dominating a herd. In the United States, all pure Mangalica pigs descend from a handful of importations starting in the late 2000s, so breeders coordinate through registries and breed clubs to track pedigrees and match unrelated pairs for mating. Embor.com. Embor.com. For example, the first U.S. imports in 2007 and 2010 came from Austrian and Hungarian lines, and subsequent imports have added a few more bloodlines. Embor.com. Embor.com. By mixing animals from these different imports, American breeders aim to preserve as much genetic variety as possible. Another aspect of breed management is whether to breed within color varieties or across them. All 3 color strains of Mangalica, blonde, red, swallowbelly, are part of the same breed and can interbreed freely. In Hungary and Austria, breeders maintain pure color lines and do controlled crosses to expand the gene pool. Crossing a red with a swallowbelly, for instance, may produce blonde piglets due to the recessive blonde genes present in both lines. Embor.com. Such crosses are acceptable as long as the pigs are registered Mangalica. The focus is on preserving the breed's traits rather than strict color purity. Small breeders are advised to work with breed associations, like the Hungarian National Mangalica Breeders Association or U.S. registries, which can provide guidance on mating plans and help find suitable, unrelated mates. When breeding Mangalicas, one should also plan for their reproductive quirks. Sows reach sexual maturity later than industrial breeds, and their litter sizes are modest. A healthy Mangalica sow may farrow 6 piglets on average. Embor.com. And piglets can be smaller at birth. However, Mangalica mothers are usually attentive and can farrow outdoors if given a safe, bedded shelter. Breeding stock should be selected not just for pedigree, but for robust health and conformation. Choose boars and sows that grow well, have strong legs, and exhibit the breed's characteristic hardiness and temperament. Because each sow produces fewer offspring, every mating is valuable. Farmers often keep backup boars or use artificial insemination with imported semen to ensure successful breeding. Maintaining detailed records of each pig's ancestry and culling any animals with genetic defects or poor performance will help maintain a healthy lineage. In short, Mangalica breeding requires a balance of preserving genetic diversity and adhering to heritage standards so that this unique woolly pig can thrive for generations to come. Meat quality and culinary value. Mangalica pork is widely regarded as a delicacy, often dubbed the Kobe beef of pork for its richly marbled meat and melt-in-your-mouth texture. PressHerald.com. PressHerald.com. The breed's lard-type physiology produces meat that is high in intramuscular fat, giving it a beautiful marbling throughout the muscle. Guide.Michelin.com. Chefs and food experts consistently praise the flavor and juiciness of Mangalica pork. The fat content imbues the meat with a deep, almost buttery richness and helps it stay moist and tender during cooking. Guide.Michelin.com. Guide.Michelin.com. In Hungary, where the pig is a national treasure, Mangalica pork is used in traditional specialties like sausages, smoked hams, and braised dishes, valued for its strong, juicy taste. en.wikipedia.org. High-end restaurants around the world have also embraced Mangalica. Its succulent texture and intense pork flavors stand out in roasts, chops, and charcuterie. As one Michelin-starred chef in Hungary explains, the meat's marbling yields an incredibly tender and juicy bite, and the high fat content contributes to an exceptional flavor that food lovers highly seek out. Guide.Michelin.com. Point one of the most famous products made from Mangalica is its ham and charcuterie. The cured hams from Mangalica pigs can rival Spain's renowned Iberico ham in quality. In fact, Spanish ham producers have used Mangalica pork to create long-aged hams with excellent results. The breed's fat and muscle characteristics are ideal for slow curing. Guide.Michelin.com. Mangalica hams, often cured for 2 to 3 years, develop concentrated flavor and silky fat, sometimes being mistaken for premium Iberian ham in tastings. The lard from Mangalica is another specialty. It has a creamy, silky texture and sweet, clean flavor. Historically, this lard was prized for cooking, baking, and even cosmetics and candles. D'Artagnan.com. Modern chefs have rediscovered Mangalica lard as a cooking fat superior in quality. Interestingly, studies have shown that Mangalica fat has a healthier fatty acid profile than typical pig fat. It is higher in unsaturated fats like oleic acid, omega-9, and lower in saturated fat. Scielo.org.za. Researchers report Mangalica lard contains 8 to 10% more unsaturated fatty acids and significantly less saturated fat compared to modern pork breeds. Scielo.org.za. The fat is softer, lower melting point, and often described as lighter or easier to digest than conventional pork fat. Scielo.org.za. Of course, it is still a rich animal fat, but from a nutritional standpoint it resembles olive oil in composition more than industrial pork does, one reason some call it a healthy fat in moderation. Royal-Mangalica.com. From a culinary perspective, Mangalica pork offers intense flavor and versatility. The fresh meat is notably darker red than grocery store pork and has a stronger, gamey aroma. Scielo.org.za. When cooked, it remains tender even with simple preparations due to the fat content. Chefs often highlight it in simple dishes, grilled chops, slow-braised shoulders, to let the flavor shine. Nose-to-tail usage is common. The bones and trotters make gelatinous stock or jus, and the trim and fat can be ground into luxurious sausages and pâtés. Guide.Michelin.com. In Hungary, sliced Mangalica sausage spiced with paprika is a traditional delicacy. en.wikipedia.org. Even the suckling pigs are in demand, as Mangalica piglets roasted whole yield succulent meat and crispy crackling for special occasions. en.wikipedia.org. Given its quality, Mangalica pork commands a premium price and is mainly found in gourmet contexts. It's not everyday pork, rather, it's the pork equivalent of fine wine, rich, nuanced, and best appreciated by those who value flavor over leanness. Nutrient-wise, the meat is high in protein like any pork, and the high fat content lends calories and fat-soluble vitamins. But its real value is sensory. Mangalica offers an eating experience that ordinary pork simply can't match, which is why chefs compare it to Wagyu beef for its marbling and luxurious mouthfeel. Guide.Michelin.com. Market demand and economic potential. In recent years, demand for Mangalica pork has been rising in niche markets, especially in the United States. While still relatively unknown to the average consumer, it has a devoted and growing following among food enthusiasts, top chefs, and small-scale farmers. The U.S. market for Mangalica can be considered a premium niche. Consumers are typically willing to pay higher prices for this rare, high-quality pork. For instance, farms selling directly to customers often charge around $6 to $9 per pound hanging weight for whole or half Mangalica hogs. Up North HeritageFarm.com, which is significantly above the price of conventional pork. Specialty meat retailers list cuts like chops and roasts at even higher retail prices, e.g. pork chops at $15 to $20 plus per pound, ground Mangalica around $14 per pound, exoticmeatmarkets.com. BellaBeanOrganics.com. This reflects the luxury status of the product. Restaurants also pay a premium. Many high-end restaurants and charcuterie producers seek out Mangalica for its unique qualities. Several U.S. farms now cater to these chefs and artisan butchers, offering Mangalica pork through direct shipment or specialty distributors. However, the supply is limited. The total number of Mangalica pigs in the U.S. is still small, in the low thousands at most, and producers often have wait lists for piglets or pork orders. Potential customers and markets include Guide.Michelin.com, PressHerald.com. Fine dining restaurants and chefs, especially farm-to-table establishments and charcuterie-focused chefs who value its wagyu of pork attributes. Mangalica appears on menus as a gourmet feature, e.g. charcuterie plates, heritage pork chop specials. Artisanal charcuterie makers, such as specialty ham producers, salami makers, and smokehouses. Mangalica's fat and flavor are ideal for dry-cured hams, akin to prosciutto, lardo, salami, and sausages. Some American charcutiers have begun producing Mangalica ham and bacon that command top dollar. Gourmet butcher shops and farmers market customers, urban butcheries and high-end grocery markets sometimes carry Mangalica cuts for customers seeking something unique. Likewise, at farmers markets, heritage pork stands can attract foodies with Mangalica samples and education about its flavor. PressHerald.com. Heritage breed enthusiasts and small farmers, a segment of customers actually buys live Mangalica piglets to raise themselves. These are homesteaders or small farmers who want to participate in preserving the breed and enjoy its pork for personal use or local sale. The breed story and novelty, a woolly pig, also generate interest, which can translate into agritourism or farm-to-consumer sales. From an economic standpoint, raising Mangalica pigs can be profitable on a small scale if a farmer has access to this premium market. The pigs themselves and their products fetch high prices. In the U.S., an individual weaned piglet sells for around $150, and breeding-quality juveniles can go for up to $500 each. Hobbyfarms.com. Finishing a hog on pasture and selling the meat, direct to consumer or to restaurants, can bring in a good return, given the pork's per-pound premium. However, the challenges include the higher input costs and longer time to market. Mangalicas eat a lot over a longer growing period, so feed costs per pig are higher than for industrial breeds. Hobbyfarms.com. Additionally, their dressing percentage, ratio of meat yield, is lower due to extra fat. Farmers often note that raising heritage breeds like Mangalica is a labor of love. It's harder to make money compared to conventional pigs, and is most viable as a specialty or direct market enterprise. PressHerald.com. The key is that customers are willing to pay for the difference in quality. In the U.S., those customers are indeed emerging. Food media coverage and word of mouth have elevated Mangalica's reputation among chefs and foodie consumers. As a result, demand often outstrips supply. This imbalance suggests economic potential for expansion, albeit a careful one to maintain quality. A small farmer who develops a local market for Mangalica pork, for example, selling CSA shares of pork, doing charcuterie, or supplying a few restaurants, can carve out a profitable niche. On a national level, we've seen companies like D'Artagnan import or source Mangalica pork to sell in gourmet catalogs, indicating a broader upscale demand. D'Artagnan.com. Overall, while Mangalica pork will likely remain a specialty item, its market value is high and customer enthusiasm is strong, which bodes well for those raising these pigs and for the preservation of the breed. Legal and import considerations. Bringing Mangalica pigs or their genetics into the United States requires navigating livestock import regulations. Because swine can carry serious diseases, like classical swine fever or foot and mouth disease, the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, APHIS, tightly controls pig imports. Importing live Mangalica pigs from Europe to the U.S. mandates a special permit and an approved health certificate from the exporting country. aphis.usda.gov. The pigs must come from countries classified as low risk for swine diseases. For example, APHIS has specific protocols for importing breeding swine from EU member states that are free of classical swine fever. aphis.usda.gov. If a disease outbreak occurs in a source country, imports can be temporarily banned. APHIS notes that after a foot and mouth disease case in Germany, live swine imports from Germany were halted. aphis.usda.gov. aphis.usda.gov. Typically, imported pigs are quarantined and tested upon arrival to ensure they are disease-free before entering any farms. These rules impacted the initial Mangalica imports. Early U.S. importers sometimes had to get animals from intermediary countries. In one case, a U.S. breeder in 2014 imported Mangalica stock via the Netherlands because direct export from Hungary was not allowed at the time due to health regulations. The piglets had to be born in the Netherlands to qualify for U.S. entry. mbor.com. This example shows the kind of logistical planning needed to legally import the breed. Today, importation of live Mangalicas is still possible and occasional shipments of breeding stock or semen arrive, but it requires coordination with USDA, paperwork, and use of approved quarantine facilities. Many U.S. breeders instead rely on exchanging breeding animals domestically or importing frozen semen, which is also regulated by similar permit rules. aphis.usda.gov. Beyond import, owning and raising Mangalica pigs in the U.S. falls under the same laws and regulations as other domestic pigs. There are no breed-specific legal restrictions. The Mangalica is simply a pig breed, so general swine farming regulations apply. Farmers must follow state and local laws on keeping livestock. For instance, some zoning laws or farming permits might affect pig keeping, but nothing particular to Mangalicas. Transporting pigs across state lines in the U.S. requires a veterinary certificate of health and sometimes testing for diseases like pseudorabies or brucellosis, as is standard for swine. This would be relevant if selling breeding stock to another state. When it comes to slaughter and sale of meat, Mangalica pork must be processed under USDA or state-inspected conditions if it's to be sold commercially, just like any other pork. aphis.usda.gov. aphis.usda.gov. One legal consideration for marketing is truthful labeling. Producers selling Mangalica pork should ensure the breed claim is accurate, since Mangalica is not a trademark term in the U.S., but customers expect the real thing. Using a registered purebred boar and sow and maintaining documentation can support such claims. Some breeders choose to register their animals with a U.S. Mangalica registry or the National Swine Registry. Though Mangalica might not be officially listed there, breed associations keep private registries. This kind of record-keeping isn't a legal requirement, but it helps with traceability and marketing. It's also wise for Mangalica farmers to implement biosecurity and health practices to comply with animal welfare laws and prevent disease outbreaks. Heritage breeds are not exempt from, say, feral swine control rules. If a Mangalica escaped and turned feral, it would legally be like any other feral pig, which are considered pests in many states. Thus, good fencing, a legal and practical necessity, keeps livestock contained and protects local ecosystems. Lastly, those considering importing live Mangalicas or genetic material should consult APHIS import rules directly and possibly hire a specialized import broker or veterinarian. The APHIS website provides detailed protocols for importing live swine and swine semen from the EU. aphis.usda.gov. aphis.usda.gov. Compliance with these protocols is crucial to avoid penalties or having animals refused at the border. In summary, raising and selling Mangalica pigs in the U.S. is entirely feasible under existing livestock laws. One just must adhere to the standard regulations for swine and any additional safeguards tied to importation and disease prevention. Best farming practices for Mangalica pigs. Raising Mangalica pigs can be rewarding, but it requires understanding their specific needs and how they differ from conventional pigs. Here are key farming guidelines and best practices for small farmers working with this breed. Housing and environmental needs. Provide Mangalicas with access to simple shelter that keeps them dry and out of extreme wind. Although these woolly pigs tolerate cold exceptionally well, they should have a place to escape rain, mud, and hot sun. Pig333.com Hobbyfarms.com. Many farmers use three-sided sheds or pig huts bedded with straw. The opening should face away from prevailing winds to create a warm, draft-free nest inside hobbyfarms.com. In winter, deep straw bedding allows the pigs to burrow and stay warm. Farmers have observed that even on sub-freezing nights, Mangalicas will sometimes sleep outside by choice, nestled in straw with snow on their coats. Hobbyfarms.com. Still, a hut is important for wet weather. A Mangalica can handle cold, but cold and wet conditions can stress even this hardy breed. Hobbyfarms.com. In summer or warmer climates, ensure there is shade and, ideally, a mud wallow. Their thick coat can cause overheating if they cannot cool off, so wallows and shade trees or shade structures are necessary in hot months. Good fencing is critical as well. Mangalicas are strong, active foragers that will test weak fences by rooting under or pushing through them. Woven wire fencing with secure posts or robust electric fencing, with multiple strands including a low strand at nose level, is recommended. Hobbyfarms.com. A Michigan farmer uses 100 by 100 foot paddocks enclosed in heavy wire mesh to contain his herd and allow rotation. Hobbyfarms.com. Make sure gates and fence lines are pig-proof to prevent escapes. An escaped pig can quickly turn into a headache, and as a valuable animal, it's worth the extra secure fencing. In summary, Mangalica pigs need a basic shelter, proper bedding, shade/water for cooling, and strong enclosures, but no elaborate climate-controlled barn is required. They thrive in outdoor conditions that would challenge most modern pig breeds, feeding and nutrition. Mangalica pigs are excellent foragers and can obtain a good portion of their diet from pasture and roughage, but they will usually need supplemental feed to grow to their potential. A traditional feeding regimen in Hungary was to let them graze freely on wild pasture and woodlands, supplemented with farm-grown staples like potatoes, pumpkins, and squash. en.wikipedia.org. This is still a sound approach on small farms. Many farmers allow Mangalicas to roam in fenced pasture or woods where the pigs will eat grass, weeds, acorns, roots, and even the occasional worm. To support growth, you should provide a basic hog feed daily. This could be a mix of grains or a commercial pig grower ration. Because the breed puts on a lot of fat, some farmers use a slightly lower protein feed or finish them on acorns/almonds, similar to Spanish Iberico pigs, to enhance the fat quality. One experienced breeder has developed a grow system planting fodder crops in the pig enclosures, which the pigs then root up and eat, dramatically cutting feed costs. Hobbyfarms.com. Hobbyfarms.com. Crops like turnips, radishes, corn, sunflowers, and pumpkins can be seeded where pigs will later graze. The pigs effectively self-harvest these, enjoying a diverse diet and enriching the soil as they go. Hobbyfarms.com. Rotational grazing is highly encouraged. By moving Mangalicas through multiple paddocks, you allow forage to regrow and break pest cycles, and the pigs always have fresh ground to explore. This method mimics natural foraging and keeps feed bills down. Despite their forageability, remember that Mangalicas are slow-growing. Expect to feed them for 15 to 18 months to reach a robust slaughter weight, 300 plus lbs live, for fully developed meat and fat. Hobbyfarms.com. They will happily keep eating and can become overly fat if given unlimited feed. Aim for a body condition score of around 3 to 4 on a 5-point scale during growth. Hobbyfarms.com. If you desire a very fatty hog for special charcuterie, you might push them to a 5 score in the final finishing months by increasing feed. Hobbyfarms.com. Usually, free choice forage plus a set ration, for example, 4 to 6 pounds of grain per pig per day, adjusted for age and pasture quality, works well. Kitchen scraps, garden surplus, and dairy leftovers, whey, skim milk, can also supplement their diet, as they are omnivorous and not picky. Ensure clean water is always available. Like all pigs, Mangalicas drink a lot, and dehydration can stunt growth or cause health issues. A hardy automatic waterer or large trough, checked often in winter to prevent freezing, is important. One challenge new keepers sometimes face is underestimating feed needs because the pigs don't grow fast. Do not underfeed thinking they will catch up later. A stunted young pig will not develop that luxurious fat correctly. Barbara Meyer, a breed advisor, notes that slow-growing breeds can suffer if managed by people used to fast-growing pigs. Some folks do not feed them enough for steady growth. Hobbyfarms.com. So, keep them on a consistent nutritional plane. On the flip side, avoid pushing Mangalicas on high-energy commercial diets as if they were conventional hogs. They will become overly obese long before reaching a decent size. Balance is key. Regularly observe their body condition. You want to feel some flesh over the spine and ribs, but not excessive fat until finishing time. With good pasture, wholesome supplements, and patience, your Mangalica pigs will reward you with excellent growth, albeit on their own schedule, and superb meat quality. Health management. Mangalica pigs tend to be hardy and healthy, but a good health management routine is still necessary. Start with sourcing healthy stock from reputable breeders. Pigs should come dewormed, and with no signs of illness. Quarantine any new arrivals for a few weeks to ensure they aren't bringing diseases. Vaccinations for common swine ailments, such as erysipelas, leptospirosis, possibly porcine parvovirus for breeding stock, can be part of your program. Local extension veterinarians can advise on what's needed in your area. Many small-scale pig farmers vaccinate minimally, focusing instead on low-stress environment and biosecurity, since pastured pigs are less prone to some diseases found in confinement operations. Mangalicas typically have good resistance to diseases and parasites, a benefit of their heritage genetics, but they are not immune. Parasite control through regular fecal checks and deworming, chemical or natural methods, is important, especially because outdoor pigs can pick up worms from soil. Practices like rotating pastures to break parasite life cycles and possibly co-grazing with other species, e.g. running chickens after pigs to disperse manure, can help keep parasite loads down naturally. Observe your pigs daily for any signs of health issues. Because they have heavy coats, make sure in summer they don't overheat. Heat stress can manifest as panting, lethargy, or inappetence. Provide wallows and shade as mentioned to prevent this. In winter, check that smaller piglets are not piling and getting crushed if they're trying to huddle for warmth. Mangalica piglets don't usually need heat lamps, but in cold, wet conditions they can struggle to maintain body temp. Hobbyfarms.com. Hobbyfarms.com. Since Mangalicas have smaller litters, each piglet is precious, so some farmers bring farrowing sows into a barn or at least a sheltered pen for delivery, to better supervise and ensure all piglets nurse well. Sows are good mothers, but you should still provide a creep area where piglets can escape the mother's bulk and stay safe, for example, a corner with rails or a separate creep feeder. Fortunately, even 2-day-old piglets tend to toddle outside to relieve themselves away from the nest, keeping bedding cleaner. Hobbyfarms.com. Hoof care is usually minimal, as the foraging on varied terrain wears their hooves naturally. However, if you notice overgrown or cracked hooves, more likely in soft pasture conditions, you may need to trim them occasionally. This can be done during routine handling or when the pig is restrained for another reason. Tusks. Boars will grow tusks if left intact. Many pet or farm boars have their tusks trimmed under sedation annually to prevent injuries, both to humans and other pigs, but if you are raising a boar solely for breeding and he's docile, you may manage without trimming for some time. Just be cautious during handling because even unintentional swings of the head can cut. Castrated males, barrows, and females do not have significant tusk growth. One noted aspect of Mangalica health is their metabolic thriftiness. They can become fat on fewer calories. This means you rarely see metabolic issues like porcine stress syndrome that affect industrial pigs. Mangalicas are generally stress-resistant. However, their love of foraging can lead to ingesting harmful items. They might root up and chew old bits of metal, toxic plants, etc., so ensure their environment is free of hazards. Provide some enrichment if possible. Throwing the occasional pumpkin or scattering hay with treats gives them something to do and keeps them content, which is part of good welfare. Finally, have a relationship with a large animal veterinarian who is swine-friendly. Even though these pigs are hardy, if a serious issue like a farrowing complication, a deep wound, or a disease outbreak occurs, vet assistance is invaluable. Not all vets are familiar with heritage pigs, but basic pig medicine applies. With routine care, ample space, and observation, health problems in Mangalica herds are infrequent. Farmers often remark that these pigs just don't get sick much compared to modern breeds, likely due to their genetics and low-stress environment. By combining old-fashioned husbandry, fresh air, exercise, natural diet, with prudent medical care, you can expect your Mangalicas to live healthy, productive lives on the farm. Sustainability and pasture management. One reason many small farmers are drawn to Mangalica pigs is their suitability for sustainable and regenerative farming practices. Mangalicas can be a key component of a diversified small farm ecosystem. Their natural rooting and grazing behavior makes them effective tillers of soil. They can clear brush, turn over pasture, and help incorporate organic matter. To use this positively, employ a rotational grazing system. Rotate the pigs through different paddocks or sections of land regularly. This prevents any one area from being overrooted to the point of degradation and gives land time to recover. Rest periods allow grasses to regrow and manure to break down. Rotational systems also reduce runoff and odor issues, making the operation more environmentally friendly. Some farmers integrate cover crops or multi-species grazing. For example, after pigs till an area, you might sow a quick cover crop, like clover or rye, or allow chickens to follow, which helps scatter manure and control flies. Such integrated approaches improve soil health over time. The pig's manure is a rich fertilizer when managed properly. In terms of feed sustainability, as mentioned, you can grow a portion of the pig's diet on the farm. Utilizing waste or surplus produce to feed pigs is a traditional practice that reduces food waste. Mangalicas will happily eat vegetable scraps, dairy byproducts, spent grain from breweries, fallen fruit, etc. Just avoid feeding raw meat or risky materials that could introduce diseases. Kitchen vegetable scraps are fine. This recycling of nutrients is a sustainable win-win. It cuts feed costs and makes use of farm waste streams. Pasture-raised pork like Mangalica also appeals to environmentally conscious consumers who prefer meat raised without intensive feedlots and with minimal external inputs. From a conservation standpoint, raising Mangalicas is contributing to the preservation of a rare breed, essentially participating in agricultural biodiversity. These pigs are listed by livestock conservancy organizations and were once on the brink of extinction. PressHerald.com. By breeding and farming them, smallholders are keeping genetic diversity alive. This has long-term sustainability value, as heritage breeds can possess traits, like disease resistance or forage efficiency, that may become important for future agriculture. Many Mangalica farmers take pride in this aspect, marketing their pork as not only delicious but also from a heritage, pasture-raised pig, which resonates with a segment of consumers. Point 1 should be mindful of balancing the pig's impact on the land. Mangalicas are vigorous rooters. They can turn a grassy meadow into a moonscape of mud if left too long in one spot, especially in wet weather. This can actually be used deliberately for tasks like rooting up invasive plants or plowing a garden plot. Some people pen pigs on a plot to plow it for a season. But generally, you'll want to move them before the land is completely denuded. If some areas get torn up, consider reseeding them with pasture mix and giving that spot a break. Using multiple smaller enclosures and moving pigs every few weeks is a strategy many employ. It's also sustainable to have a higher land-to-pig ratio than commercial operations. Give them plenty of space. Overstocking, too many pigs on too little land, is a recipe for mud, odor, and parasite buildup. A good rule of thumb might be no more than 5 to 8 grower pigs per acre of active pasture, and even that depends on pasture quality and rotation frequency. Finally, document and continually learn. Every farm is different, and part of sustainable practice is adapting to your local conditions, climate, soil, vegetation. Mangalica pigs, with their hardy nature and easygoing temperament, are forgiving animals well suited to thoughtful, eco-friendly farming. By following these best practices, proper housing, smart feeding, attentive healthcare, and regenerative land management, small farmers can successfully raise Mangalica pigs in a way that is profitable, ethical, and sustainable, all while producing some of the finest pork in the world. Hobbyfarms.com